You are now listening to
Chakras and Shotguns. Welcome back to Chakras and Shotguns. I'm Jen. This is episode 8.
And I'm Mick. Welcome back. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be back recording. I'm just thinking about our last episode and I can still taste that MRE. It haunts me.
Yeah, we had to burn some candles to get the smell out of the house for a little while, didn't we?
Ooh.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that and have checked out the YouTube video where we kind of break down the different options that we tried. So give that a shot on our YouTube channel at Chakras and Shotguns. Yeah. So we're going to lead into part 2. But before we do, I'll lead us in a little bit of breath work.
All right, man. Let's go.
All right. So this is a pretty basic breath work exercise. We're just going to do some mindfulness breathing. Just want everyone to focus on their breath. So let's get into it. I want everyone to sit up nice and straight. I want you to rest your hands on your knees. Relax your shoulders. Relax your core. Relax that tension that you have in your face and in your neck. And let's just, for 3 breaths, bring all of our attention to our breath. I want you to focus on the inhale and how it feels going in your nose, and just feel that breath as it exhales from your lungs. So just really focus on that for 3 breaths. Let's start now. Two more. Last one. All right. Hopefully you guys are feeling nice and relaxed and focused.
Thanks, man.
All right. So we'll jump right into our interview with our special guest today.
Woo woo. First guest.
All right. So we're continuing our Where We About to Eat At 2-part series. Last week, we discussed some food preps that you can do that basically involve purchasing food that has a longer term shelf life, the MREs, the freeze-dried food. Those are some things that you can have ready for any type of emergency that may arise, and you'll have it on hand already. We're shifting focus today.
Yeah. So today we wanted to shift the focus and talk about growing your own food. It's sustainable, it's fun, it's healthy. You can get your kids involved. And we also think that getting your hands in the dirt and connecting with nature can be a spiritual experience. If you listen to our root chakra episode, we talked about grounding and just like getting more in connection with the earth. So gardening hits both parts of Chakras and Shotguns today, yeah?
For sure. Having your own food growing in your backyard is definitely a way to make sure you're prepared for any type of, natural disaster or situation where you need to, secure your own food. So definitely hits both chakra and shotguns.
Cool. So story time.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about our growing our own food journey. So during COVID, had a little bit more time on our hands, and wanted to just kind of get into some gardening. And so for me, I ordered one of those veggie boxes, which is basically like a little hydroponics kit. It comes with like a light that kind of provides the sunlight, the artificial sunlight for the seeds that are in the box. So I started out with just some basil and some oregano. Mm-hmm. And I think there was it thyme we also had in there as well? Cilantro. Yeah, it was cilantro.
But what survived?
Just the basil. Yes, I didn't do that great when we kicked that off. But the basil's still alive. And, almost a year later, it's still producing some nice basil that we can throw on some pasta and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's like I like to cook and I love Italian food. But there's only so much bolognese I can make.
Yeah. So we give away a lot of basil. It's like a parting gift. If you come to our house,
Yeah.
you get a little bit of basil because we just have so much of it overflowing.
Mick was throwing it in his water at one point.
Yeah, just try basil water. Why not? I have so much of it. Why not do that? So I wanted to graduate after that Veggiebox basil. And so I ordered like a already kind of, all you have to do is follow the instructions to put it together, raised bed.
Before that though, didn't you watch the masterclass?
Oh, I did. You're right. So yeah, I got the masterclass subscription as a gift. And so I watched the one about gardening. I forget the gentleman's name, but it's a black dude and he's like based in LA.
Yeah.
And he kind of gives you the basics of gardening. So yeah, that then led me to going online and buying that raised bed. And so yeah, I started with kale. And so I had a bunch of kale seedlings that I put in there. And so for those that may not know, there's, seed and then seedlings. So seedlings are kind of like seeds that have already germinated. They're kind of like baby plants almost. And seed is just like the actual seed. So I started with seedlings. It's supposed to be easier to go with seedlings. And it did pretty well for a while. But then the ice storm hit. Mm-hmm. And I didn't quite take care of my kale babies during that temperature drop, and it all died. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was pretty sad. I didn't even get to eat any of my kale. Just wasted kale.
And I want to paint the picture. We had stuff inside and outside the house. So if anybody's ever watched the show Weeds,
yeah,
we had grow lights like everywhere. And I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What is going on?
So that was when I was also trying to do a seed box. It's a little two different things, right? So the seedlings that with the kale, they were growing in the raised bed outside.
Yes.
But I was also trying to start seeds indoors.
Yes.
From seed. And so that's where the grow lights came in. And yes, none of those actually survived either. That was also not a very successful experiment. But no. So the ice storm killed my kale. I killed my own seeds because I just wasn't doing it correctly. But then we tried to basically reuse those beds to grow some different herbs. And we had mixed success. Some of them survived. We had some calendula that's still alive. Mm-hmm. We had a little bit of lavender that survived.
This is my burgeoning herbalism. Like I was getting into herbalism. I was like, I'm going to grow some of my own herbs. I'm going to talk to them. And it's just going to be beautiful.
Yeah, we had some intentions in there.
Yeah.
Not all of them died. Like I said, we still had some that
some
survived.
Are holding on.
Some are still holding on.
I'm showing myself some grace on that.
But yeah, so I was having a conversation with Kira, who's a friend of ours, and she was like, "Yeah, so you're struggling with your garden, and I think I have somebody that you should talk to." Insert our special guest who's here today with us.
Our first guest.
Yeah,
it's the first guest on the podcast, so we want to welcome Darciea Houston.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So yeah, Darciea comes over with her pickup truck. She has seeds and seedlings and her special nutrient blend. And she basically just hooks up the garden and helps me get my life together when it comes to gardening.
Yeah, she saved our entire garden situation. I was like, hang it up, flat screen. This is not my ministry.
We thought we had black thumbs.
Which that is annoying. But I was like, no, we can do it. But yeah, we were hanging up the towel.
Yeah.
Or throwing in the towel. Throwing in the trowel.
Okay.
Garden jug?
Okay. I see what you did there. But yes, so we want to welcome Darciea. She is multi-talented. She is an entrepreneur, an author, a motivational speaker, a farmer, and a permaculturist.
Ooh.
You want to tell us what that is first? What is a permaculturist?
So every time we talk about anything with agriculture, permaculture, horticulture, look at permaculture being the most permanent type of life, way of life. It is the growing process that we can use that's sustainable, that will ask us to use our waste, zero trash, it's like zero waste or whatever, zero till. There's no need to go through unnecessary processes if we just kind of like grow right, meaning that we are encompassing what was here. We had a forest, we had shrubs, we had, what is it called? Ground cover. We had a multitude of things, but then we create society and city. And that's why we have to have things like horticulture and things to actually create an environment. But permaculture is the most permanent kind of agriculture that you can engage in.
Oh, wow.
That's
okay.
dope.
Yeah. All right. So first, can you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into gardening?
Definitely. My mom was born with sickle cell disease, not trait like I have. And
I had that too.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. Awesome, but not. But yeah. Mm-hmm. But so she didn't learn how to walk and things until she was around 5, very delayed in her developmental, her cognitive, her motor skills, a lot of delay. And one of the things that allowed her to create and provide go to work and provide a household was because, I think diet. My grandmother was a professional chef. Her last name was Cook. And she actually was so engaged in my diet because she thought that I was going to get her child sick. So, me going to school, being around other people, total social butterfly. She just, and the same things that we are afraid of now, COVID has not changed anything for me. This was my way of life, social distancing, all of that as a result of someone suffering in my family of an immunity disorder. Gotcha. So diet became everything. I would go to my grandma's house, she's like babysitter, of everybody. And she'd be like, when's the last time you had a bowel movement?
Yeah.
I said, I think, go on in there and get a laxative. And so she would mix the laxative with the coffee. And, coffee's already its own thing. So I don't drink coffee. But that is how I initially understood that my mom was going to stay healthy based on her diet and based on my ability not to get sick. So I think I consciously also did not ever want to be sick because then I wouldn't get to be around her.
Gotcha.
She would have to put me, do something else with me. So I'm like, I'm the most healthy. I'm healthy. I would just like play it off. But so me starting with gardening, my grandma and the situation, she used to work for a Jewish home that they had kosher meats. They made their own ice cream and butter and everything. So they were supposed to dump all buckets and pots and everything at the end, but my grandma was raising so many people, like we needed that at the house. Yeah. So we would use, and people hate when I say that, don't tell people the little trash bags, the little compost bag, whatever the waste is supposed to go in. Yes. That's what grandma would put our little, leftovers in. And I would go and bust open a bag of that in the refrigerator versus, breaking up a bag of chips or something different. I had access to anything, but I just really, really appreciated that ice cream that they made, that butter, their spaghetti, all the dishes. So she just kept reiterating these things. But as I grew up, I developed allergies. I started gaining all this weight. I had inflammation. But the allergies is more the telltale than to anything, because when I left my grandma's care and was in full-time care of my parents and cousins and aunts or whatever, then I had allergies.
Gotcha. So if I'm hearing you right, when you were at your grandma's, you were eating more from the ground, like kind of more natural foods, things that you guys were planting yourselves. And so she kind of got you involved in kind of that.
And with the garden that we did have, a lady that worked with my grandma, she came and started our garden. And I didn't know until now that was an edible garden. So we weren't in the business of actually growing and harvesting, but I was also hindered some information on my mom's and my dad's side. My great-grandmother was a full-fledged farmer, and my grandpa on my grandma's side. And on my dad's side, my dad was raised on a farm. And it wasn't until I jumped into this career that either one of them spilled the beans. Nobody wanted me to go into a field of work.
So, okay. So if they didn't want you to, how did you find your way into the career then?
I it just felt right. Everything about it. I ended up wanting, I had an in-home daycare for 10 years. Let's start there.
Okay.
I had an in-home daycare for 10 years, focused on boys, their corpus callosum, and the way that they think. The reason I had to start this is because I had 3 kids and married as a homeowner by the age of 22. So we got a lot going on, and I can't afford nobody's daycare and diapers at the same time. Something gonna have to give. So I had to be the daycare, right? And so incorporating these foods and things in the daycare, I was able to control so much and add to and contribute to my own health and then to the kids and so forth.
So for the daycare, were you like utilizing a garden to kind of help provide the okay, gotcha.
Outdoor gardening. Well, outdoors, we were actually doing everything, but we did an in-home garden or window garden. And how we did that and why we did it is because my husband's a general contractor. He builds everything we have and do. But somebody ordered some stairs and they never picked them up. So we was like, okay, we done lost this money. I don't know if you know about stairs and that type of wood, but that's a lot of money. Yeah. So he just turned them upside down, braced them in the back, and filled them up with soil. And we started growing at the window. We had carrots, we had beans, we had, I think we had some lettuce.
And so was that your first time gardening or had
Yes, that was my very first time gardening. And this leads me to my dad coming over, telling us, bragging about how he knows how to grow because how he was raised. Really? Do tell, young man. Yeah. So I'm listening. I actually got irritated. So why didn't I know that? Why didn't I know that this is where I'm from?
Interesting. So I think that tells a similar story to a lot of African Americans, right? Where we have that family that kind of goes back to the farm and we've, moved away from that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that knowledge, a lot of those recipes, they say, we're losing recipes like that. That's there, right? Yeah. Where I think, my mom's mom, she grew up on a farm, right? Jen's mom's mom.
My mom grew up on a farm.
Exactly. So yeah, we have that connection. Right. We don't necessarily have the knowledge, right? We're descendants of farmers, like 1-2 generations away. Right. And we're over here killing kale and plants, right? So
the most amazing thing when I used to manage the We Over Me farm at Paul Quinn College, they turned their football field into a farm. I had work college students. Okay. They get assigned to me. If they don't come and do their due diligence and see where they want to work and actually apply, they might just get put in some places. So a lot of people just got put on the farm. Gotcha. And so one baby, she, Mom, oh no, they put me down here on this farm. She said, you go up there into that office and let me talk to somebody in charge. Because I sent you to college to work with your head, not with your hands. And I said, checkmate. That's the reality. Yeah. There's a reality there that, people don't want to get dirty. Yeah. And I told the babies, it's not about getting dirty. This is about soil. Look it up. Yeah. And the definitions prove them right. They don't want to be of filth. They don't want to be of, the definition of the true definition. And so that's the real hard thing to get over.
It's interesting. I feel like we have devalued some of those like living off the land skills, right? Yeah. And it's coming full circle now. I think people are trying to get back into it. And as this natural movement kind of continues to build momentum, right? We want to have the organic stuff, the natural stuff. And what's more natural than like growing it yourself in your backyard?
Growing your own food.
Yeah.
There was also something you said that was interesting of like how your mom and your dad didn't tell you about it, but like you just kind of felt this pull to it. Where it's like I've noticed that, and it's something I've been like listening to and looking into, is that it might even be ancestral. Yes. But there's this calling there that pulls you back no matter how far away you think you might be getting away from it. So that's really interesting.
For sure. So I think I want to help our listeners get started in their garden, right? So I want you to talk a little bit about what maybe the best crop to start with might be, or maybe crops they should avoid, or maybe a little too tricky to do with your first go around. What do you think about that?
For me, I don't care where you live. My number one crop to grow, there's 2 of them, but number one makes me feel so successful is radish. That thing germinates so fast, and it's something I can it's a whole vegetable, which I can eat the top, the stem, and the root system of this, crop. And the other one is bean. because when the growing mediums on bean is powerful. I take it to places like the Mark Cuban Basketball Center, Estelle Village in Highland Hills. I'll take it to the Browns over there across the street in Mountain Creek. But wherever the garden club situation is, I take the bean. And the bean, I take it with a glove because all this COVID now, everybody's got gloves on hand and everybody's got cotton balls. And I will put the cotton balls in each finger and ask the children, I ask them to do all that, but then I ask them to put the bean in there. And then I ask them just to tie it. And I ask them from there, what does something need to grow? And they say, it needs dirt to grow. We need water. It needs air. I said air. They're going back and forth. And I said, so are these beans going to grow? No, because they don't have no water. They don't have them. And I reiterate these things to them only to solidify that, yes, everything does need soil and all these other things, but not everything needs these things to start. And so all of the beans in these gloves within the next week will germinate.
Gotcha. What kind of beans specifically?
Pinto, Lima, navy, black eyed pea.
Gotcha.
It doesn't matter. Beans and they're nitrate fixers to the ground. But the reason I plant that radish is because radishes, they grow so fast, but they will provide a rooting system in your soil before you might even be thinking, you say, I got this garden and it's just going to sit here right now. Cause I'm going to wait until the fall. Cause see, I like to grow greens. I don't want to grow lettuce. I want to grow greens. Yeah. So with that said, if you got your garden right now, throw out your radish seeds right now. Okay. And throw out some onions. Some bunching onions, those green onion bunches. And the reason I say that is because you want to infuse nutrients and you want to give your ground some opportunity to open up for you. Yeah. We want to do what we want to do. We want to throw the seeds down, but our soils are not prepared. And a lot of times when we are in new developments, even of houses and things, you don't know what they've disturbed under the ground when they were putting your house together and things. So I do say you have to land read also, but if you're unsure, go ahead and start in a raised bed. And then from there, when that raised bed, intend for that raised bed to break down, because once it breaks down, it's already healed the ground and you can continue to garden in that same spot.
Yeah, that's it's interesting that you mentioned radishes. We actually just harvested our first couple of radishes. We didn't realize how spicy raw radish was. Yeah. We kind of bit into it.
We had we took our oldest out there. We were like, we got a radish, and she held it like it was her most prized possession. And my radish, I want to eat my radish. So we sliced it. And took a bite and we were like, no, you can't eat this.
You can't have this. And she had a whole fit. Wanted to have the radish. Right. Like, girl, if you have this radish.
You're not ready.
Yeah, you can't.
I was like, what have I been eating?
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't that make you think at the grocery store, what way do we have this kind of heat, the heat that's needed? Right. This is an antifungal, type situation because of that heat. So that benefit is so gotta be there. And it wasn't until I started growing radishes that I fell in love with them because I need the heat. Yeah. I didn't like radishes from the grocery store because what is this? What is that? I don't
exactly. They're also really good roasted.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I wanted to go back to what you said about the beans and the nitrate. You said something about nitrate. Yeah. Can you explain a little bit for the maybe novices out there who want to understand what that means?
So I'll give you a great example. Like when you form a business, you want to make sure you have a marketing person and a CPA, maybe a lawyer. You want a whole slew of people that are professional around you. And that's the same with your garden. They want to have professionals. Who's got the nitrogen? Who's got the gas? Who's got the air? Whatever that is. And so when you grow things individually and you start to notice maybe that your leaves are yellowing or something, that might be a deficiency. And usually it's like a nitrate deficiency. Nitrate is something that I could go get a fertilizer, or something of, but if I want to imagine what nitrates can do, I would think of a stream that has fish. And, you have this ecosystem that's very balanced to where there's algae, just enough, not like an infection, you know what I'm saying? Like you just got enough of everything. And beans will provide you with a constant feeding of nitrates as long as they're within the garden. So you're just looking to amend the soil when things are wrong. But if you plant correctly, you'll notice that indigenous Indians plant in sacred geometry, and they also plant with companions in mind. So the bean, it has two favorite family members. They're sisters, and it's the corn and it's squash.
Nice.
And so they grow together based on the guild that needs to happen. Know that our soil is the land's skin. And the reason you're going to continue to always get weeds is because it wants to cover itself. It wants some clothes. It doesn't always want to be bare because you want it to be bare. If you don't want it to be bare, you got to put what you want there because something's going to come anyway.
Nice. So I think that's a great lead into the next question. I think a lot of times people see they need to have like 6 inches, 8 inches apart from each plant, right? And what you just said, we need to cover that skin of the earth. So I guess, what's your recommendation on like, do you need to put a lot of space between the plants?
Yes, it depends on the actual plant. And now, so yes, the corn or the okra or whatever, it might be a foot apart or 2 feet apart.
Gotcha.
Watermelon as well. But the reason that the three sisters are prevalent is because that corn would be planted about a foot apart. And I don't see that when I'm traveling the highways. They're just so compact. But, that corn, let's say a foot apart. And then I also have squash. Squash is a ground cover. Those leaves are so big and everything's going to sit on the ground and it's going to do what it needs to do and kill off the weeds. The sun is not going to be able to penetrate. It's only going to maximize nutrients for its product, its baby, which is the squash that we're trying to grow.
Yeah.
And then you got that bean that's that nitrate fixer because they're both heavy. They both need nitrates heavy. So that bean will climb up the corn. So you have a system, and it's like a small guild, shall I say, but this will ensure that your weeding is minimized and that you have the crops that you need and you got a little nitrate, little fertilizer in there.
So it's interesting. I think, going back to my story, right? When I started out with that raised bed, it's about 2 feet by 4 feet. And I had that kale in there. Probably had about 8 kale plants in there. Not maximizing my space, not tons of open area. Darciea comes over. She's like, no, throw some radishes in there. Throw some carrots in there. Got some lavender. You got some rosemary. It's all like just like, exploding with greenery kind of coming from that one box where I only had like 8 little small plants before. So it really kind of helped change my mindset about like making sure we have crops that are working together. In that space. So,
and then for me on the outside looking in and just coming to check in on the plants, I'm like, ooh, what's that? Well, we'll see. It's kind of like a fun little mystery.
Yeah, because I kind of forgot some of the stuff.
I know. That's what I wasn't saying. I was like, Owen, like right after you left, I was like, Owen, what's that? And he was like, oh.
I forgot. I think that's onion. Tomato? I don't remember. She told me what I forgot. I didn't write it down.
I think you just started singing beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes at that point.
Pretty much. We got it all. Thanksgiving is going to be great this year, I want to talk a little bit about some of the common mistakes that beginners make.
Yes.
I know for me, you came over and you were like, your soil is dry. You told me, you're not getting nearly enough water in there. I was kind of going out there with my little pail. Because the dude on the masterclass, he kind of he didn't show you how much water he was doing. He kind of just dumped a little bit on there. So I was like, oh, that's all I got to do. Like, I was probably putting, 16 ounces of water on this.
Like what, 2, maybe 3 times a week?
I was going out there every day.
Oh, you were?
Yeah,
okay.
But it was not enough every day, right? And I was doing it at the wrong time of day as well.
That part too.
So I'd love to, have Darciea chime in on how much water, what time of day, and why some of that is important.
Definitely. So a few things. I went to one of my prominent locations, and I was like, I can tell these things haven't been in the ground too long together because their watering requirements they're totally separate. So it told me that this was a staged garden and this was not real as a result of some things being next to each other they're not supposed to be. Additionally, when you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and you see these plants and you start to get inspired, you're like, I'm going to grow this and I'm going to grow that and I'm going to grow this. But we very rarely look up. And if you look up, you'll see that certain things are under shade cloth.
Mm-hmm.
So when you bring them home, they need to be more under a patio, a nursery type thing. And the things that are very, very much in sun, full sun, they are going to need a lot more water. So it just depends on watering. But the crops that you have actual vegetables and herbs. During the summer, especially right now, people make the mistake that it rained last night and I don't need to water this morning.
Yes, that was me.
Mm-hmm.
And so your plants get stressed out the same way you would if you didn't have water. And so now they become diseased. You got a lot more gnats and you start to see holes in your leaves as a result of immunity. Their ability to communicate with each other and share, like they like made a pact when they got in there, like, girl, I got you. Every time you need some water and they're not watering you right, I'm gonna give you some water. But if you're not giving either one of them water and they talking crazy about you,
That makes sense.
So then you won't receive the maximum amount of benefit out of the nutrients if you're not talking to the plant, if you're not watering first thing in the morning, because their root systems are straws and they need to take a drink every time it's important for them. And that's what I would equate it to. We won't, we will never, not one time, no mommy in this world gonna keep her baby without no milk or water.
For sure.
So it has to be that love, that idea that that this plant is gonna need more,
Definitely. So I think now when I go out there, I have my hose. She told me, hey, that bucket's not going to cut it. You can't fill it enough times to get the water you need. So I have my hose, and I basically set a timer for 5 minutes. And I just, on each bed, stand there.
Gotcha.
And make sure I get plenty of water all the way down to the bottom.
Yes.
Because, my soil was looking real dry. I was embarrassed when she was kind of uncovering layers and like, look, there's no water down here.
Digging.
So it was bad.
Yeah, and it's a pretty deep raised bed too. And I think you also have to take that into account too, versus like if you were maybe growing something in a pot.
Yeah. And then even soil, sometimes people, they're like, I'm going to grow, and they might go buy compost, and that's not light enough. So we were watering, remember, but the water was not penetrating. The water, it would make you feel like he was watering. It was just rolling off to the sides. It was not going down. So we literally had to dig and aerate and put nutrients down there that can be absorbed by the water, because the type of soil. So when we go purchase soil, I don't think all the time we are very aware that this might be for starting just seeds. Or this might be just for microgreens, or this is just for hydroponics, so we just have to pay attention and then modify, because being in a food desert is the same, not saying you all are, but being in a food desert is very similar to being in a desert of anything, even though I hate that term, because deserts are thriving and they have everything they need. We just don't know how to operate in them. But when I'm in southern Dallas, hardware stores where I can go get things if I see a yard that needs amending, I have to go all the way to North Dallas to do so.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to also ask a little bit about compost, right? I know that's an important part of a garden. Something we started doing. We bought a compost bin. Maybe everyone doesn't have the ability to start their own compost pile, but maybe they can go and buy it certain places. Obviously, you have your own nutrient brand as well that can help out. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the importance of why you need to compost, why you need to add nutrients to your plants.
So many different reasons. Spiritually, where does trash go? So you definitely should recycle goods that already came from, I think it should come back. Like you give somebody an important, not to say I've ever done this, I gave you a Louis bag. If you don't want the bag, give it back. Don't just give it to somebody else. So I think nature or the universe is very upset that we don't understand to give back in that way, because that is the only way you can effectively grow for yourself. You're already eating a certain brand and variety of produce. And when that breaks down and you plant seeds in that, you're still reaping the benefits of what you actually put into the compost. So you'll never be without what your body actually needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's, if you can think about it from that perspective. And then the other perspective is how many gnats and things that, this actually does accumulate in your own house. And then to reduce trash waste on a commercial side, I think that that's also important. But if nothing else, your own health and wellness is the maximum, that's the reason why you would do anything. And I think that that's why composting is important. And so much so your shells of your eggs, your coffee grinds, your tea bags, your coffee grinds, for one, can go into scrubs and stuff for your body. And it also can go in your bathtub along with those tea, know, but then right after that, there's like so many ways you can waste again. So I just look at it like that. Compost is extremely important. And that's one of the first things, if you're really serious about growing, you might want to kind of just start with composting, because that helps you understand. I have worms that help me, with the composting.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm grateful for them, and they are the composters.
Yeah, no, I feel a lot more sustainable. And you start to realize just how much organic material you are throwing away. Before you start composting. So we definitely had to deal with the gnat issue and kind of get a system to make sure we were emptying it out of the house fast enough. So that was definitely something that was annoying for a little while. But
we are just coming off of a gnat infestation. And I don't want to say infestation, but we had a small gnat issue.
Yes.
And I was like, I cannot figure this out.
Yeah, it was a banana peel that I forgot in the compost bin. So I know she was going to throw me under the bus there. But yes, it was my fault. But no, we got that taken care of. And yeah, our compost is now thriving. So I want to tell the listeners to, go out there and do some Googling. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there about how to effectively compost. You don't need a ton of space. There's different types of solutions out there that folks can.
I mean, even if because a lot of people can't compost that live in apartments, and they give it to me. My neighbors, I come outside and I just got little itty bitty Walmart trash bags and Kohl's and everything that you could think of, because somebody had some eggs, somebody had a bunch of bananas, somebody bought I just come outside to so much. So just contribute to someone else if you can.
For sure. Okay, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your children's book.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier how gardening is fun with the kids. And I know you have a character that you created. And I wanted to just let the listeners know about that.
Awesome. So Major Melanin is a character that I created. Learning about permaculture in Cuba is when my group Soil and Soul solidified our mission on what we were going to do. And my particular, gift to the world, I wanted to inspire healthy habits, but I want to do it for whole families. And it just seems like when, especially during the 90s with, Bebe's Kids and Bart Simpson or The Simpsons. And, you have so many adults that are engaged with, cartoons and things of that, and comics and stuff, being that Superman and all those are still real. So I am a superhero, Major Melanin, and gonna come and save the world with information about what's native and medicinal and edible in your yard.
Awesome.
So the goal is we're having lawn people come, they cut our yard. We also allow them to put pesticides and insecticides, or we don't ask, they don't tell, whatever that is. But we're trying to get a green lawn. And most of the folks I know don't golf. I don't get it. You don't need a green lawn if you're not golfing. You need to eat. And there's a lot of things that are native that grow, especially dandelion. That I'd like to start with. That is what Major Melanin will start with, is dandelion, move over to thistle, because they can be confused. And just get more native grasses and examples for people to understand. And when they look at their lawn, they're not looking at grass anymore. They're like looking at medicinal properties. One thing that irked me so much you have so many people praying for a solution, And I swear, you just can't diagnose anybody because you don't know. They don't got no lab. But I'll just be like, oh, this lady just go into her garden or her yard and get this dandelion and drink this tea because she needs a detox.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's in her yard and she is praying and paying.
And dandelion is one of the things that they have on all of the weed commercials. It's like something you want to get rid of. And folks don't realize that it's actually a really powerful.
Right.
medicine.
You got people that suffer financially that want cups of coffee that can't go get. You better go get them dandelion roots and roast them and get you some Folgers. That is coffee in the woods. It doesn't make you have coffee outside, and you got lettuce, you got a tea.
Yeah.
With one dandelion, you got coffee, you got a salad, and you got tea.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So do you have a date on Major Melanin when it's going to be released, or is it already out?
So Major Melanin is in the final stages of, I just approved the final stages of her trademarking.
Okay.
The name and the actual character. And we're trying not to roll that out until we get a final approval for our trademark. But her ads have been, if you think of, like Progressive Insurance and Flow, Major Melanin sells Filthy Rich Soil.
Okay.
So that's the bridge because
Gotcha.
I go to grocery stores and purchase manager specials, the very ripe bananas, the old mushy beets, and the turnips that are mushy as well. And I take them home, I put them in my nutrients, and then I take it to market and I show people this is totally bounced back. It did not have leaves. Now it does. Now I'm able to harvest the turnip tops. I pull the turnip out. You see that it's created a rooting system and it is no longer mushy. Yep. If nothing else, this is the way to store our food. If it's not, if nothing else, we can revive it and store it. And that's one of the reasons I even started this 2 years ago was through Wilmer, Emmanuel Wealthy Legacy Foundation. They had a Black mayor out there in Wilmer, and she was doing a food distribution from Sprouts and giving a lot of great produce, but it was so much and people weren't home when I was going to go deliver. And I was just like, I'm about to bury all these beets and all this ginger. Yeah. And then all these leaves came up. Yeah. And I was just like, I was thinking compost.
Yeah.
And it didn't compost.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I love that name, Filthy Rich Nutrients. It kind of flips the whole filthy rich phrasing there and talks more about like the soil and the fact that you have this nutrient blend. I wanted to just ask if it's available outside of Texas. Can folks get it around the nation, or how do you have it?
So you can order online. It does have a shipping and handling with it. So I'm able to ship out. Right now, who's using the soil is Soil and Souls in New York. That's where it's a big partnership that I have up there. In 2020, we won a Grow NYC award based on our work that we were bringing back from Education from Cuba. And they've been allowing us to expand in so many ways. And just yesterday, I was offered an opportunity to see how we can make that connection happen there. But here in Dallas, I plan to be in 2 locations, possibly 3, by the end of the month.
Gotcha.
Nice. I wanted to ask, what are the spiritual benefits from growing your own food?
Oh my goodness. I have a short story from when I used to be the farm manager at Paul Quinn that is indigenous land. And so they cleared that football field. And once they started, the garden, I'm out there and there was so much communication I was having with nature. It was so unreal. For one, my chickens were amazing, but anybody can have a relationship with chickens, Me and Georgina are not special. However, I'm out there, I got my headphones on, I got my music. For whatever reason, I do listen to the orchestra first thing in the morning because I want to, hear and see. You must pay attention to where you're growing. You want to see what birds are going on because they're waiting for you to plant so they can take the seeds away. You don't know why nothing germinated. I don't have a good thumb. You had birds, Yeah. But anyway, so I'm out there harvesting and I'm bobbing. I remember I'm harvesting tomatoes and I lean down. I can't get it. My hand wouldn't go. It just got stuck. And for whatever reason, I thought I need to hear better. So I took my headphones off and went to go do it again. My hand would not penetrate. It wouldn't go where I wanted it to go. I said, okay, let me just look a little deeper. I look and I see millions of spiders just hatching.
Wow.
And I felt called, I felt like that was a communication level that we have. So I think that that's so spiritual. I've gotten so much more in tune. And another thing, as far as body wise, I'm able to call in manifestations for self in personal opinion. After tubal ties, I've been pregnant twice. And I'm just, I don't understand, but this last pregnancy, when they went back in to tie my tubes, they actually gave me a C-section mark because they wanted to go in surgically and tie them back again, cut them again. Within 8 weeks after I started working on the farm, that keloid scar was gone.
Wow.
And I had it a year before.
Yeah.
So I was just amazed by the ability to heal when you're working in your own nutrients.
Wow.
Spiritually, I've been led to Hey Healer and many other spaces. Very ironically, how I ended up in Cuba learning permaculture, always on a whim. It was just one event led to another. Very, very optimistic about what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was willing to take any kind of pay cut and not have for my purpose in life. So I think that that's all spiritual. And then also linking up with, families like yourself, working in your garden. You're the first garden that I ever worked in that I was pulling up intention after intention. And I was like, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because regardless what it ended up being, there was pure intention, and it's so rewarding to work with people who want the information and not because it's trendy or I just need to do it because I need to eat better and my doctor said, or I got cancer. And I got so many people that's afraid to be in their garden, and they haven't set it up properly, but they didn't have an intention at all. And I didn't read any of them. I stuck them right back in there after we got done. I said, wifey got these intentions and this is just beautiful. But it opens so many doors. I learned so many new things that are healing, like funguses on wood and things of that nature. I'm like, what is this? Witch's butter. I end up learning about witch's butter.
What is that? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. So it's very high highlighter yellow. It sticks out of old wood, almost in a mushroom fashion, but looks like a disc. It's very, very secluded. This particular brand was. But after looking at it, and I had to compare it to some other things it could have been, I went blind in my right eye October of last year.
Okay.
And so with Dr. Hubbard, with Comedic Care and Hey Healer is how I got my vision back.
Wow.
But during this process, when I say things that you need are there, during this process of healing, I see this witch's butter and I'm like, what is going on with this wood around here? So I look it up and I'm taking pictures and stuff, sending it to people. They tell me what it is. And it was a definite remedy, for like eyesight and other things. Not to say that's what healed me,
right.
But if I really, really needed to, I could try to cultivate more of this particular product or see, but I just felt like spiritually it is here because this is my situation that I'm going through and I can't explain it.
Yeah.
Like it is so cool. And then to learn how to save seed and then not purchase seed, be empowered, because during this COVID and even a little before, honestly, I wasn't having access to seeds.
Yeah.
They, the big seed companies weren't sending to small me. I had to go find some white person with an ag, a big ag situation so I can order off of them because I couldn't get what I needed. So that process, going to Cuba, learning that, how to save seed and be permanent, and then our society fall the way it did. Yeah. I was so, grateful, but also felt so in tune and on time. But back to what you were saying, called, whatever parent decided that they were getting ready to get away from the family job, the lifestyle, whatever that is, I'm here to bring it back.
I love it. Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask if you could tell people where they can find you on social.
Definitely. My website, www.darciahouston.com. That's DARCIEA Houston.com. And then I'm on Instagram at Darciea Houston. If you're looking for nutrients, I'm at Filthy Rich Nutrients on Instagram. And on Facebook, I'm author.Darciea Houston.
And we'll link all of that in the show notes for sure.
Definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about that.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have talked for another hours and hours and hours.
For sure.
Like,
this is great.
Totally.
This was really, really good.
Hopefully this inspires some beginners out there to get started in their garden. And hopefully it works out. Feel free to reach out to Darciea to get some tips. She definitely is a consultant out here for the small time folks who are trying to get their garden started. I can attest to that. So reach out for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I wish you all much success and hope to be back with my soul sisters.
Yes. Thank you.
Awesome.
We really hope you enjoyed our first guest. And I know that was a lot to get through. So we're going to wrap it on up, get on up out of here.
Yeah. So to just kind of close the loop, give you guys a few takeaways from our interview with Darciea. Number one, just kind of start simple.
Right. So don't try to replicate your entire local grocery produce section, your entire local farmer's market on your first go, right?
Exactly. Like Darciea mentioned a couple of crops. So radishes, bean, those tend to be pretty easy. You can get you a small kind of plot either on like your apartment kind of balcony area or fire exit or just kind of a small area on your patio in the backyard and try out a few of those. You can even start with seedlings, which I mentioned are a little bit easier to kind of get going rather than starting from seed. Number two, know what grows well in your area. So there are different temperature regions, also called hardiness zones, that you can look up online. In the U.S., we have those listed on our USDA website. For the international folks, just go on to Google and figure out, just type in, your country and hardiness zones, and you should be able to find out what the local climate is and then figure out from there which plants will grow well during which seasons in your hardiness zone. Number three, so learn what combinations of plants grow well together. So Darciea mentioned a few different crops. She talked a little bit about, I think it was squash, corn, and beans that worked really well together. Whatever you decide to plant, see if there's another crop that kind of complements it. That will give you the opportunity to kind of maximize your space. You can have multiple different crops kind of closely growing together. So 2 or 3 could work really well for you. And then number 4, I wanted to just kind of highlight heirloom seeds. Darciea mentioned having kind of a hard time getting some seeds. There are some places that you can order seeds from online. There's a great shop that I got my seeds from called Melanated Organics. They're based in Florida. And they had some really, really good seeds that I've been growing for a little while now. Also, there's a IG account. It's called Black Gardeners Matter. And they have a guide on their Instagram profile that has listings of garden centers and nurseries that you can support. Quite a few of them are Black owned, which, we try to support BIPOC businesses. So great resource to find some seeds and watering plants and nutrients and things of that nature. And then going down to number 5, make sure you guys use plenty of water.
Lots.
Plenty of water on your plants. As I mentioned, I was completely underwatering our raised beds. And so we were having not great success early on. And it wasn't until I started to kind of figure out with Darcia's help, like, the layers underneath the top layer of soil just weren't getting any moisture. I really learned, to really spend a lot more time applying water every day.
Were our plants in a thirst trap? Ooh.
They were. I like how you tied that to episode 3.
You're welcome.
So yes, they were quite thirsty. And yeah, make sure you're doing that watering at the beginning of the day so your plants have plenty to drink from all day. And then last but not least, make sure you are applying nutrients to your plants. So you can find compost available in a lot of places. When you're buying it commercially, you don't always know what's in it. So check the reviews there. If you have the opportunity, compost things yourself. We'll link a composting video for folks who are curious about composting. Or you can also check out Darcia's Filthy Rich Nutrients. And that link is also in our show notes as well. You can reach out to her and get some of her nutrients to add to your plants.
Dope. So as always, if you have any other questions about this episode, questions about spirituality or preparedness in general, or, you just want to tell us about a dream.
Yep.
Any of those things, send us an email to chakrasandshotguns@gmail.com with the subject line question or dream, and maybe we'll read it out on the show. Maybe we'll answer it. Also, if we've talked about a lot of different things, go check out our show notes. We try and provide helpful links so you're not trying to figure things out and scrambling. Anything else, Mick?
No, that's all. Feel free to leave us a review and follow us on Instagram as well.
Yes.
All right. Have a great day, you guys. Namaste.